miniature painting, in my mind, is just one of the absolute best hobbies or pastimes that a person can have.
Welcome to the Want to Know More show, the show where I ask folks fun questions about the world of gaming because I find it fascinating, and I think you do too. I'm your host, Miles. Our guest today is, insert famous person's name, which today is Brent from Goobertown Hobby. Thank you for joining us, Brent, on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. I don't know if it's lovely in Maine, but it is lovely down here.
It's very nice outside. We have a lovely fall day today. I don't know when this is going to be uploaded, but just for everyone listening, we're recording on a lovely fall day in October.
Knowing the Northeast, it's going to snow outrageously next week. But yeah, so for the 5 people in our gaming circle and in our gaming community, can you give everyone the 1-2 punch of who you are, kind of what you do, maybe like a paragraph on that?
Yeah, so my name is Brent, and you're talking to me today because I run a YouTube channel called Goobertown Hobbies, and primarily that is in the sphere of miniature painting, and I paint minis and make little tutorials and that sort of stuff. The thing that sets me apart a little bit from the main crowd of folks who do that is that my background before all this was as a scientist, and so I also get really interested in how stuff works, how things are made. I have a little bit of like a myth-busting kind of idea in some of my videos. But anyway, I'm Brent. I run Goobertown Hobbies. We paint miniatures. It's fun.
And you have to introduce our co-host.
This is one of my 2 cats. This is Snuffles, who's up on the table right now. And this is an ongoing thing. Anytime I'm recording in this chair, they hear me talking. They think I'm talking to them. I'm not, but they jump up here and they try to be a part of things. And
it's time to party.
Time to party. To party. So I actually have 2 cats in this room right now, and the second one, Gordon, just went active, so he may be joining us here in a few moments.
No worries. Not worried about it. I think that's great to have co-host. My dog Franny runs in and sits on the couch next to me all the time. So, but I closed the door this time purposely for that. So, to kind of get an idea, I want to go first take a step back because I know of your journey somewhat, but for anybody who's very interested, I want to know how long have you been doing? Let's start easy questions. How long have you been doing this for? The YouTube and the personality and the fun and the hobby.
Yeah, this YouTube channel started almost exactly 6 years ago, and about 5 years ago, I resigned from the full-time job I had at that point, and so now I am full-time doing this, whatever this is.
Yeah.
And for a while I was telling folks I'm kind of unemployed. I kind of do YouTube, but at this point I've become comfortable just saying, "Who am I? I am a YouTuber," and that's starting to feel pretty natural. And if I go to the doctor's office and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" and I say I can say I'm a YouTuber without being too bashful about it or whatnot.
Is there a form of, did you have to get over that? When you were first coming up, you were because I know, as we all know, whoever watches YouTube, to become a YouTuber is like a blessing and a curse. It's something that we didn't grow up with, that job title. And we also now accept that as quite possibly the coolest job on earth, but it has strings attached and a lot of things that come with it. So now that you're saying out loud, I'm a YouTuber, does that, you said it feels natural. Is there still some hesitation there?
A little bit. So I'm from the generation where that still sounds like not a real job, or what are you talking about? And also, I know that to have a YouTube channel just requires having a Gmail account, and so anybody with a Gmail account can be a YouTuber. But to say that with confidence when somebody asks you what your profession is, I think that takes a little while to get used to the idea. At least someone who's in our 30s like we are. Maybe maybe if you're in your 20s or teens and you say that your profession is YouTuber, maybe that's starting to sound more natural to people. I don't know, but I've said it to enough people now, and I gotten enough reasonably positive responses to just that sentence that it's starting to feel natural. The dentist or whatever is like, oh, no, normally people just say they're an accountant, and then I don't know how to continue the conversation. But that's actually interesting. So, tell me more.
That's one of my biggest fears is small talk at dentist office.
It's terrible.
It's terrible
because you can't talk. They can talk as much as they want, and
they really want to talk to you
real carefully. Yeah, you got to choose how you're forming those syllables, and yeah.
Do you feel like you walk in two different worlds? Because you just went to Spiel, spoiler alert, you just had a lot of fun, I would imagine. Do you feel like your time at the dentist office and your time at Spiel are just these two fantastically different worlds?
So being at conventions is interesting because that is the one place in the world where I am recognized as, this part sounds weird to say, but as like a mini celebrity at a gaming convention. If you're just walking around and you have a YouTube channel that people watch, you're aware that people are recognizing you and doing double takes, and a lot of people do come up and say hi and stuff. So that is definitely a strange and alien experience that is different from all of the rest of my life, really. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wrote down another question. Well, actually, before I've got some silly questions, but have you ever been, or did you expect this amount of somewhat subtle notoriety? Like when you were like doing your little myth busting experiments, were you like, well, this will work someday?
Sort of. So my thought process in getting into making a YouTube channel, there was an element of, yes, this will work someday. There definitely was that behind it. Not that I was associating this will work someday with being recognized in public or anything like that. But, but before I did YouTube, I had been a TA in grad school and then a lecturer for some of the larger lecturer courses. And so there was an element of, I can do this teaching thing and stand in front of people and talk and present ideas and kind of keep people's attention for 50 minutes. And there was an element of, I can do this that transferred over to YouTube. So the reason why I started the YouTube was mostly just to share the stuff that I'd been painting. There were a few things I wanted to test, a few videos I thought should exist that didn't exist yet. And so mostly I was just doing that for fun. I did not have the idea or the concept at that point that it was in any way going to become a career. But at the back of my mind, there was, if I can organize a PowerPoint presentation, I can organize a YouTube video, and present what I want to do. I can do one of the first videos I did was a test on stripping minis. If you get minis from eBay and you want to dunk them in some sort of juice to strip the paint off of, what should you dunk them in? And that was very much a scientifically minded test of, here's 6 different things that various people have sworn by online, and I'm going to test them all, and we're going to do this nice and neat and present everything all formal and make a myth-busting YouTube video out of it. And so, there was, I can do this. Yeah.
I think there's something really interesting about what you do that I think everyone is really fascinated by, and you, I think, know this, but coming from my perspective, I also was in what I call the normal people corporate world, right? So I was like, gotta make the company money, and I've gotta like play politics and stuff. Like, I feel like you just cut through the middle of all that and are just yourself. And I feel like that's really important. And I think that everyone recognizes that in you and loves that about you. And that's one thing when I was first reaching out to you, By the way, Brent has been to one of our events. Joined us. It was lovely. It was amazing. We had a blast. I think you said that you
Thanks
did as
for
well.
having me. No, I enjoyed it. That's why we're still talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when I was first reaching out, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's not like it seemed like there was so much, like there was like a lot of truth to everything you said. Like you meant everything you said. You were genuinely curious about things. You were genuinely curious about learning about people, and it comes through over the camera, and that's a hard skill to develop. Is that something that you've always you're just like, I'm just gonna be me and everybody else can, figure that out?
There might be a couple of things that you're picking up on. First off, I have not heavily monetized anything, and so I'm not as tied to needing to make videos in that way. So I don't have any children. I have no dependents. This room that I'm calling you from is my studio above my parents' garage. So my costs are nice and low. My monthly expenditures, I keep those low. And so I don't have the pressure to be making sure that every day I am generating cash flow in that way. And so that choice has given me the freedom to really pursue the things that I think are going to be the most interesting topics or the most interesting to me. And so, that's nice.
Prior to when you were living, prior to now and who you are now, did you feel like you were part of a rat race at all? Like, were you like, I am pursuing, because you were in, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were like in chemistry or some iteration of that. And did you feel like you were like chasing after the next supervisor role or something like that? Or was that not you?
Yeah, I was in the corporate world for a couple of years. It was, I had a job at a startup for about 3 years, and that definitely had a different kind of energy to it, of like the goals of hitting the research targets and appeasing the investors and all that kind of stuff. Definitely had a different feel and a much higher level of stress than whatever this YouTube thing is. I do actually see some similarities to the before that, in grad school in the academic world. Actually does have some similarities to making YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. So you're doing research, and you do research in like whatever your particular field is with whatever your strengths are, but you're picking the granular levels of what experiments you do are kind of based on what's the next journal article you want to write. Like, so if there's there's some molecule you want to study, some test you want to do, you're kind of basing that around, how do I get like 4 really good graphs so that I can write a journal article and get something published this year and then move on to the next thing. And that actually has a lot in common with making a YouTube video. You're picking like what are the nuggets of interesting things that I want to test or paint or share to make a solid unit that is worth showing to people. And so the YouTube thing for me, I see a lot of parallels to the slightly freer world of academia and just kind of following things wherever they lead.
So your tenure.
Yeah, this is a tenure.
This is a tenure.
a tenured professor's kind of attitude.
A 10-year to master it. Yeah, I love this. By the way, I love this conversation happening in front of us on camera. Between.
Yeah. Now, there's an audio only version of this, or I guess people could just kind of listen to it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, likely. Yeah, I could probably put it on some podcast thing somewhere, but mostly just video podcast, video show. I'm trying to get away from podcast, which I'm doing horrible at. Okay. But I do want this to eventually someday be a show of some sort. So anyway, side disclaimer. But enough about me. With all of like these, I guess let me actually go back to me really quick. So I have been like sitting and stewing for years and been like, what is what is this all for? Like, because I, again, was in corporate Joe Blow job marketing, trying to get numbers on paper to do other numbers. Like, it just didn't seem like there was much to it. And I feel like something that, like, when we were chatting at Ironweld, something that you mentioned was like your number one like mission seems to be, or at least one of them is, to show people the joy of painting, like the therapeutic painting is good for everyone. For me, it's kind of like a little bit more like explosive. I think I kind of want to like break down the corporate world and be like, why aren't we just all having fun? Like that seems to be my through line in a way. Can you talk like a little bit more about like what your like mission is? Because my mission is just like bombastic and out there. So
Yeah. Well, I think all of us want to have a story about why we're getting up in the morning and why we do what we do. And I think for a lot of people who have those corporate jobs, it's I am providing for the family and making sure that, my family unit can have a good life and all that stuff, which is cool and noble. I don't have a family, so my reason for getting up in the morning, the story that I've told myself is that miniature painting, in my mind, is just one of the absolute best hobbies or pastimes that a person can have. It's relaxing. It's a creative outlet. It doesn't have to be too expensive. It's something that you can do from the time you're a child up to when either your hands or your eyes really give out on you. It's something that you can do up until pretty advanced age. It's something that your skills and your talents can grow year after year. And if you want, it plugs into all other hobbies too. It plugs into your interest in pop culture characters, or plugs into your interest in gaming. So I genuinely think miniature painting is just one of the absolute best hobbies that a person can have. And I think there is no reason for it to be as small of a niche of an activity as it is. I mean, it's growing. It's not a super small hobby anymore, but I am...
Yeah, how many entries were at Golden Demon this year?
Plenty.
So many.
I don't know the number, but a couple of thousand. I don't know. A lot.
Yeah.
And not that miniature painting has to be anywhere near Golden Demon level. Just the act of sitting down at the end of the day and painting. Really
that's something
healthy.
I learned from you that I don't know. So I came into the hobby about, as a kid, I had Warhammer 40K toys and I loved them to death, and I someday wanted to grow up. And then I skipped 10 years, like a lot of us do. And then I picked it up again. Yeah. And I thought, in my head, my line of thought was like, paint for somewhat competition's sake. And I think something that like you like hammered over my head was just enjoy it. And I started watching your videos and I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, like I can just enjoy this, like, and take a breather and like come out at the end and be like, I don't have to learn OSL right now, and that's okay. This model looks perfectly fine. And I just say that out loud. Like, I really appreciate that about your spirit in this hobby. So
100%. It does not have to be a competition. Like if you do work a normal job and you get home at the end of the day and you eat dinner and you got a couple hours that's yours before you go to bed, I mean, you could watch reality TV or whatever, or you could paint a miniature, and I think it's just end of the day wind down kind of thing. Really, really good hobby, and I feel good about spending my efforts getting people to try it out and dip their toes and have some fun with it. So that brings me fulfillment.
On like a more, because again, this show eventually is kind of, it's dipping its toes in the idea of the world of gaming and somewhat the business that surrounds that, but also just like, like you said, like waking up in the morning and doing things that are related to gaming and community and making that happen. What's your, like, do you have any like great experiences with conventions? Do you have, like, I don't really want to go into the negative experience of like conventions or like the negative experience of brands. Like, are there any really interesting like have you had a really amazing time with monumental hobbies, or have you had a really amazing time dealing with frontline gaming or something? Like, are there any standout moments in your relationship building and business that like come to like float to the top of your head right now? They're like, oh my gosh, love these people. And don't say us, because we are
do love
delinquent
hobbies. So something that I have picked up on is most of the people who are trying to do painting and gaming and miniatures as their profession, like the vast majority of people are in this for the right reasons.
Yeah.
They're in this for, a lot of the reasons that you and I have been talking about here before, is because that this is something that they actually do love, they actually are passionate about. Most of these people could be making more money doing almost anything else, but they have chosen to do miniatures and painting because they want to be there. And so just in general, my experience at conventions is hugely positive. Sometimes my experience reading the comments in a YouTube video is a mixed experience sometimes. But
I actually had my first negative comment, and I was like, "Ooh, that's spicy." Like,
was
it
like, your fault or Trevi's fault? Or
no,
who
it was
baited
totally
out?
my fault. It was I said, oh gosh, I'm giving away the secret sauce. But I said like and too much, but it's not even because I mean to. It's my mannerisms, right? But it's because that's just kind of how I talk in real life. And so I've got to get my like radio personality together, or this commenter might come back at me. So anyway. Small comment.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I have the same verbal tics. I think we all do. There's other tics that I've picked up on just from listening to myself. I actually use that one a fair bit.
When you signed your name in blood that you were going to become a public personality, were you an introvert or an extrovert at that point?
I don't think that has changed about me very much. I think I'm an introvert who is able to fake extroverted for a weekend at a time. Like I think introvert who is able to pass in social circles for as long as necessary before getting back home and playing XCOM or whatever.
Yeah, just a great game.
But yeah, so you started several topics there. I will say that having a podcast is a little bit like your own personal Toastmasters. That's a group of people that just gets together to practice public speaking. So a lot of people, you might have a Toastmasters group of like 10 folks who get together on Thursday evenings or something just to practice speaking to each other so that they're able to give a toast at a wedding or give a presentation at work or whatnot. And for a lot of people who have podcasts, just like a YouTube channel, it's easy to start a podcast. I think a podcast is a little bit like Toastmasters. It's just more and more and more experience talking. And slowly over time, you can start to self-edit the ums and ahs a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of work, but
it really does. And there are people that are naturally amazingly gifted at it, that just off the bat not doing that. I think a lot of them are, I jokingly say, like theater majors, or they did some form of theater in school, which I did not. I never did that, and so I'm getting used to it. And part of it for me, part of hosting hosting Wicked Dicey events, part of getting myself on YouTube and actually showing myself beyond the curtain is a little bit of an intellectual like curiosity and experience that I didn't feel like I was getting from my quote unquote normal people job. And I felt like I was not progressing in my skills. And so I've been really appreciative of this roller coaster of an experience. And for folks who don't know, who are listening right now, I I got myself fired at my normal people job. And I deleted LinkedIn that day. I was done with it. I couldn't approve within myself that I'd go back to that world. So, I'm giving it my damnedest to not go back to that world. Cause I I think the gamers just right now do a lot more. We entertain and we give people things that they wouldn't normally get, versus like helping out a finance manager. Just I don't know. That doesn't feel great. So anyway, I kind of went on a ramble there, but
I hear you though.
Yeah.
I hear you. Catching myself. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So
Disaster.
here's a good pivot then.
Okay.
Have you? I'm curious to know. So you've got this fame-ish in our community, like people know you, and you're super happy about it. You seem to have taken it. I like wrote in some notes. I was like, Brent woke up one day, like grabbed a sword and shield and went out on an adventure into the YouTube land. And I feel like you've maintained your sanity and your soul within this. Like I think that's what a lot of people, back to like earlier what I said, like you recognize within you, like you seem like good people, which, you know, that's a really good thing and hard to do these days. But I'm curious, have you been in a signature line? Have you written signatures for folks? Is that an experience? If you have,
I have not been in a signature. Well, yes, I have. I have signed. I've signed a Night Titan for somebody once. I've signed a couple of people's wet palettes, somebody's Artis Opus box.
But you haven't like
brush lock.
Been sent to a con, sat at a table, and just signed posters all day or something.
Not all day. There was one convention I went to last summer where they had me out there to teach, I think 8 hours worth of painting classes, 4 separate 2-hour painting classes. And one of the things they wanted me to do was, can you sit for an hour at this little booth here, and we'll tell people that you're there and you can sign signatures. So I have technically done that before, yes.
I just thought it would be a curious thing to do. As a little side note, I was watching a little, Small Worlds here. I watched Squidmar a lot, and I noticed in his video he shouted you out, and I was like, oh, that's fun. Like he was like, I got to meet Brent for the first time. This is great. So I don't know how that went.
So my trip to Spiel was one of the first times I've been to Europe, and so that was my chance to meet Lucas and Emil. Emil. I can't say his.
Someday I'll meet them. I'd be excited if I got to meet them. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
they seem really nice.
They had a real meet and greet line, so they were associated with the Vallejo Paints booth, and Vallejo had done a little bit of advertising that the Squidmar Bros will be here doing a meet and greet, and they had a line. Like they had a line, circling a couple of booths. And
well, they're the cool kids in our space.
They are.
So, I think. Have you ever watched Peter McKinnon's videos? Do you know Peter McKinnon?
A couple. I know who it is.
I think Squidmar gets a lot of his styling like inspired by. Like obviously he has his own way about it, but maybe not. But I just find it interesting.
They know the language of YouTube for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Do you have a paint line, Brent? Do you
No.
You don't. You haven't worked with anybody?
I'm trying to think here. I am frequently in talks with many of the different paint lines. Like I have a good relationship with Monument and Too Thin Coats and Army Painter, and I haven't done much with them, but I have a good relationship with Reaper. I
like Reaper a lot.
I have not.
I like all of those, by the way. But
I have not slapped my name on anything and been selling it in that way.
Not just to sell it, but would you be interested in doing something like? I guess it's kind of a curious thing. It's like a Goobertown hobby line. It seems fashionable.
It is definitely kind of one of the ways that my peers have found to make some money in all of this. So I do actually have a product line coming out from a new company called Goblin Hobbies. And I'm not quite ready to tell you what that is, but my buddy Casey from eBay Miniature Rescues and I have made a company called Goblin Hobbies. We do have a line of products coming out, and essentially both of us waited before we put our name on things. This is no shade at anybody, but there's a lot of paint out there on the market. All of the colors have been invented already. The paints all have a slightly different feel to them, but actually Army Painter did offer me the chance to design and name like 10 of their speed paints or something like that, and I just uh, no, you guys can figure out the colors. It's cool. Like you
That's
you
so
guys know what
interesting.
you're
And
doing. Like
I think that's what I'm still trying to understand about you. You don't tend to like the limelight comes up and you're just like, nope, like I'm fine without it. And I just think that is not normally what somebody with your, following and gumption would do. And
well,
so,
there's a little bit of just waiting for the right thing, waiting for
mhm,
something that's really cool. So Goblin Hobbies, the new way to do freehand.
I love it.
Goblin Hobbies,
Am
not
I
a
gonna have to
stencil.
like blur or not blur, cut out this part so we
No, no,
don't
no.
like,
I'm
okay,
I'm being careful.
okay.
But pretty soon, folks will know what we're talking about here. But it's a
That's so
great way to
exciting.
do heraldry and squad markings and stuff like that. And you'll all see.
Yeah,
Um, but
cool.
so I am kind of working on that. But yeah, I have held off on some of the other brand deals and stuff, partially just because it takes bandwidth to do all those negotiations and to figure all that stuff out. And partially on the, why don't I have my name on a paintbrush or paint? It's like I don't know how to make paintbrushes, and
Yeah,
as for paint colors, like they've all been invented.
yeah.
All the paint colors are out there already,
Um,
and there have been some nice little collections that some of my peers have put together, and that is cool, and it's a way to support them, and that, hey, no, no shade at anybody there, but that hasn't been my interest.
Okay. All right.
So I will say,
okay.
like, what my interest has been and how I've been parlaying my internet fame. I've
Mhm,
actually really enjoyed getting doors to open
mhm.
with being a known YouTuber. So something I've been doing more and more and more recently is factory tours. Back on the how it's made topic.
Which you do a really great job of, by the way. I've watched one of your factory tours and I was like,
Thank you,
this is great. Like
thank you.
I'm
Yeah,
very intrigued.
yeah. So on that army painter topic, they're like, hey, do you want to design 10 of the colors of this line and put your name on a few of them? Like, no, but if will you let me into your factory so I can see how it's made and bottled? Like, can we do that instead? And that
Do,
way the outcome for me is the access and being able
mhm,
to share something that other people haven't shared before, and that snowballs a little bit and helps me get those relationships and that kind of access with other companies who are
mhm.
doing other fascinating things. So the
Yeah.
trip to Spiel, before and after the convention, I went to DTR, De Tin and Roos, who's a guy who does really high quality metal spin casting. So he did the previous line of Guild Ball. He does
Mm.
Strata miniatures. He does Freebooter. So I got to
My friend has a lot of Guild Ball stuff. He's very excited about. That's a good line.
yeah,
Yeah.
the old metal stuff. Or by old, I mean about 5 years ago now. Was when they were really doing metal. It was all done by this one guy in the Netherlands, and I got to see the stacks of the old spin cast molds. Actually, if we're
That's
on
right
video,
here.
this is not one of them. This is well, this is
Thanks.
a tiny Brent of Goobertown cast in metal here. The design was made by Loot Studios, but what I'm holding up here is a hard silicone spin cast mold,
Hmm.
and the inside are a bunch of metal Brents.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, so we kind of did this as just a example of how to make masters, and then how to make a mold out of the masters, how
Is
to
that a
get
video
metal in
that
there.
might be on the horizon?
That's a video that's on the horizon,
Gotcha.
absolutely.
Oh,
So anyway, that was me getting access to a factory in the Netherlands, and then on that same trip, I was able to go to a resin mixing facility. So Amera Labs has their facility out in Lithuania, and so I also got invited to go to Lithuania and go into
Nice.
Amerilab's headquarters with my camera. And
Did you ended up going, or you got
yeah,
invited?
no, I
Wow.
both. Yeah, so
I want to go to
yeah,
Lithuania.
about 10
That's
days
hilarious.
ago, I was in Lithuania
Wow.
checking that all out. So that has been my interest of kind of ways to work with companies to, there's a selfish and a selfless component to that of like,
Yeah.
selflessly, I do want to share this stuff, and selfishly, I would like to be the one to go in there to learn this stuff, to be able to share these things with people. And so that's kind of what I've been doing with my internet notoriety here in the gaming and miniature sphere.
Love it. Okay, so I think I have about a billion more questions. So what
Okay.
I think we should do is we should pause. I think we should pause
Okay.
on questions. I think someday we should have you back on the show if you'll have us / if you're
Oh, I'll
down
be
for
here.
that.
I'll be here.
But for now, I do want to. I billion more. Yeah. But anyway, so I think is a good pause point. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll probably shut this off and chat with you for a bit. But thanks everybody for tuning in as well. As I said, this is a little bit of an experiment and a little bit of just having fun and shooting the shit with friends. So I really appreciate your
40
time.
minutes the correct time for one of these not podcasts?
We'll see. It was supposed
Okay.
originally. I
we
had
could
thought
try
about
3.5 hours if you'd prefer.
Yeah, I had originally thought about it as like an 18-minute show, and that like has been thrown out of the window quite a bit since. So, yep. So anyway, thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, good talk.
Ba-doop.